Hello, everybody. Again, I think my audio is working. Yes. Want to make sure I turn it up. Didn't realize it was so low. Hopefully you can hear me. There. Okay. Um, just checking here. Okay. As you'll notice, I'm just running through these presentations because there's a flow. And, I spend enough time putting it together. And so I just am doing all four, one right after another, because I can easily just tie in the previous session into the new session. So here we are, session 3, where we're going to talk about the bench of 3 when it comes to shifting our mindsets. That is super important. Because if we can't shift our mindsets, then it's going to be difficult to function emotionally, spiritually, and physically the way that we're supposed to, and that works best for our system. And no two people are alike because we've all had different experiences. We've gone through different things in life. So therefore, you're going to tweak how this works for you based on what's resonating with you. And hopefully I've given you some ideas, and we'll continue because there's still this session as well as one more. That you can grab a bunch of things that people have to say as you begin creating your bench of 3 for wholeness. And I'm not, originally I say healing in there, but it's really wholeness. Because that encompasses everything. That includes healing. All right, so without further ado, we are going to share screen. And which one of these? There we go. It's this one right there. We're going to share. And we're going to do the slideshow from the very beginning. As I said before, it's a very good place to start. And the curtain draws back. And we begin session 3, shifting mindsets, the bench of 3. There's my website in case you want to go check it out. I have all kinds of cool things on that website. As before, once this video is done, I'm going to put a video link in there because otherwise you wouldn't be watching this. Well, you'll have access to it in the email that I've sent out. But if you don't actually have the PDF yet, make sure you check your email, go to this, go to the Google Drive link that I provide for you, which I will make sure all the Google Drive links are in, I think the Google Drive link is in the very first PowerPoint presentation. But the challenge webpage link, that is where we continue to add resources. All right, moving along. So the key points, I'm just going to go ahead and move myself, cover the numbers. Okay. So going to go through the mind shift process, the power of intention, the reframing process, mountain and seat of rest refresher, thoughts, intents, and actions as a bench of 3, the body, soul, and spirit as a bench of 3, which we've gone through, but now we're going to start putting them together to make our wholeness bench of 3. Then we're going to look for suggestions of various techniques in the Facebook group. So hopefully by now, those of you who have tried a variety of modalities, I can't even remember them all right now, but I have at least 2 people who do VST sessions. That's vibrational sound therapy, where they put the metal bowls on you. And that's really great for bringing peace. I do sound baths. Several other people do sound baths. I record my sound baths and then send them to you with affirmations. I mean, those are the kinds of things, even personal songs that I do. Any of those things can be used as part of your bench of 3. And many of you have tried things that I haven't that really work for you. And we want to hear what you've tried and what you like. And so I already said that. So now we're going on to the power of intention. And as I say on the in the group, intent is king. And it really is. This is actually from the cover of my book, Transforming Mindsets. So shifting mindsets actually changes our DNA. And it's done through epigenetics, because remember, we're carrying the memory of our ancestors. And as we shift our mindsets, that memory overwrites the old stuff so that we no longer have to function out of that. So we reframe our thought life and our epigenetics are rewritten. We take every thought captive and we change it to a more positive alternative. So you've got your thought river flowing in front of you, and there's something really icky that just keeps persistently coming down there. Then you can take it and you can take it captive, and you can literally envision putting love or joy or something over it and wrapping it in love. And then pondering on the love aspect over the opposite aspect. If it just keeps pestering you, then just give it a little dose of love, you know? From a positive perspective, we can change negative thinking. We cannot change negative thinking with more negative thinking, because negative thinking is a weaker frequency. Positive thinking is a stronger frequency. So we want to entrain, come into agreement with the positive frequencies, and then we are going to entangle with those positive frequencies by doing something about it. We then reframe thoughts into better intentions. But, you know, it takes practice. Our actions are then more positive. So it starts in our thought life. Then we do the reframing, and then all of a sudden you're going to start responding differently than you used to. But it's going to take practice. So, you know, when I first started this journey, I saw 0 changes for 9 months, but I kept at it. So, but again, I wasn't necessarily looking for the really small changes at first. I started seeing small changes after about 6 months. And don't let that frustrate you, because you're probably going to get it faster than I did. I was just more stuck, probably, than a lot of people were. Our soul and our body appreciate positive thinking. They're going to respond to negative thinking as well as positive thinking. But, you know, if you're negative thinking, they're going to respond negatively. So just imagine how much relief the soul and body are going to have once we start thinking more positive things. You know, think of, if you haven't watched the movie Pollyanna from the 60s, go watch it. She plays the Glad game all the time. And there really is a lot of truth to that movie. So here's some examples of things that we can say. Instead of saying, I have no money, say instead, provision finds me. So you're taking a positive thing, a negative thing. A lot of times, whenever we have, I have sicknesses, like I have a cold, I have you've just owned it. The moment you say, I have something, it's yours. So instead, you say, I see myself completely whole. This symptom is on my body, but I'm not accepting it. So it's not ignoring that it's there, but I have statements mean you have them. Do you want them? Great, then say I have. So leave the I have statements out, unless it's a positive thing. I hate the way I look. So I've started saying, body, I love you just the way you are. And I hold my tummy roll and I say, tummy roll, I love you. My fat thighs, I say, I love you, fat thighs. I just don't want thunder thighs. And so I will, you know, you have to love you just the way you are. If we can't do that, then it's going to be difficult to change. Instead of, why does everything always have to go so wrong? Why is everything in my life so messed up? Say, ask yourself, well, what is good today? I mean, people always ask me, how are you? And I'm like, I'm absolutely bodacious. And they roll their eyes at me because I say it all of the time. And there might be some really weird stuff going on that day, but I have made a choice that every day is going to be a good day. Even if they're, but the interesting thing is there might be challenging things going on, but I'm not seeing them as a negative thing. Like, okay, what can I learn from this? The other thing you could say, why does everything have to go wrong? You could say, what can I learn from this? You could say that as well. Here's another one. Why do people not like me? Why do people always poke fun at me? Why, whatever. And say, how can I love myself more? Because a lot of times people are responding to the energy that you're putting off. If you don't love yourself, that energy is radiating, because we all have an energy field around us, and they're going to feel and resonate with that. And they're unconsciously, they're going to respond to that by poking fun at you or doing some other things. Or the other thing is they could be in such a space that they're just going to hurl at you what they're thinking about themselves. So a lot of times people are people. Hurting people hurt people. How about instead of this person is, we see this going on in the political arena right now. This is the summer of 2024. They're in the United States. There's a big election coming up. And I'm just sitting here watching these people just lambaste one another. And I'm like, those are judging statements. Why do we have to do that? I'm like, can we stop already? And instead, what I've been doing is I'm releasing peace over each candidate. I'm releasing love over each candidate. I'm releasing that the truth that's in them comes. That they're, if there's yucky stuff going on, that's covered in love, and that they would see the way, and that they could change, that they want the best for our country. And I speak those things over both candidates. And we cannot become so polarized that we refuse to see someone else's perspective. Anyway, instead of saying, did you hear what blah, blah, blah said about, gossip? When someone says something, it's like, maybe we should just send a little bit of love to so-and-so. They're having a hard day today. Well, it doesn't matter. Let's just release some love. We don't have to get into details. We somehow think gossiping is a cool thing. I don't know why. Instead of, I can't understand such and such a politician, then ask the question, what truths lie in what they're saying? Because in every lie, there's a tiny bit of truth. Where is the truth in that? And I challenge myself to listen to things that I completely disagree with, because I want to find the one bit of truth that's in there. But if you get to the point where you're listening to something and it's causing you stress and anxiety, stop. You only want to do things where you have the ability to stay in peace while you're doing it. At any time you get out of peace or you get into frustration, then quit. You have to know what your barometer is for handling such things. Okay, here's another one. Instead of, wow, all that's on the news today is negative, say instead, let's look for some good news. Those cute little fuzzy bunny stories, there's a one called Keith Hartman on the Road, is with ABC or NBC News. I can't remember which one. And he goes around and he just does all these interviews with all these fun stories. Look for things like that bring you joy and bring you peace. Try not to watch things that put you in a position of stress or frustration. And this includes on Facebook. There's a lot of, because I have a lot of friends from both sides of the aisle. And some of the things that they're saying, I just kind of have to roll my eyes. So my Facebook page is covered with cute cat pictures, plants, construction, all these beautiful and lovely things, because I'm putting out a frequency of goodness onto my Facebook page. So that's how I am dealing with this. One on the news is negative today. Instead, let's look at some good news. And I post it on my Facebook page. So those are some examples of how we change things. Our bodies thank us when we have a positive outlook. So changing our thought life takes continual practice. We wrap everything in perfect love to override negative and stinking thinking. And the water in your body carries your thoughts and words, and it responds according to what comes out of your mouth, which has been framed from your thoughts that you've pulled out of your thought river that you've marinated on and made a decision, even if it's an unconscious or subconscious decision to do something with it, your body's going to respond to those things. So if we purpose to see the glass as half full rather than half empty, it's going to completely change everything. And this includes how you've thought about yourself. I hear so many people who are constantly saying, oh, I was talented as I have lows, such and such happened and my self-esteem isn't here. And people always said blah, 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 blah about me. And I'm just really having a hard time getting into doing this. Well, start reframing what God says about you. You can do it. I had to get there myself. So really, until we start overriding all that negativity with something that's more positive, we're going to stay stuck in those places and we're going to stop our creative processes. And we're all creative, by the way. Oh, and I had to put this here. Love rules, fear drools. So just see fear drooling and you're putting love all over it and it's completely covering it up. So there goes the fear. So we bring our thoughts, intents, and our actions under the authority from your seat of rest. Love is the strongest possible frequency. When we sit in love, all weaker frequencies must come under the governance of love. So governance only happens when we're seated in rest on the throne of our life with Creator. So you think of yourself as a king or a queen, because England had a queen, now they have a king, but that person still functioned in the same capacity. So you think you rule your life as a king, sitting on your own throne, but you're sitting with Creator on that throne. And the spirit is partnering with love, and the soul and body come into alignment with what's in our heart. So if you're feeling your heart with all this, with love, the strongest frequency, remember that picture I had of the mountain and the inside, you're standing inside of it. That is the inner part of you. That's your heart. That whole inner core of that mountain is your heart. And you want that to be filled with love because then it will affect everything all the way down and through the entire mountain. So get that visual in your heart, your brain of what that looks like. Love overrides all negativity and comes from love with the spirit. It's like the two act as an energy to just bring that love together. When fear reigns, we're functioning from the soul. Anytime that we're dealing with negative stuff, that's always in the soul. Now look at this. If you're functioning in the soul, you're only halfway up the mountain. You can't see anything above it. It's only from here on down. This is just not working. Why only work with half of your being? So, that's again why this visual is really helpful in us to see that we function from love into the spirit, then the soul, then the body. The bench of three, reframing thoughts, intents, and your actions. So this begins by not accepting the negative thoughts and the things that are contrary to love. And this takes practice. For example, before I got married, like I told you, I had read the Charles Capps' book, The Tongue, A Creative Force. And man, I was doing really well. I got a really great teaching job in the Seattle area. It's a middle school band director. I was doing great. And it was really a pretty bomb.com time of my life. Then I got married. And then all of a sudden, all these negative thoughts started coming down my thought river. And I'm like, he was saying, well, you're too controlling. You don't listen to what I have to say. You don't consider what I have to say. Well, I don't feel the same way as you. We're supposed to be a married couple. That, all of those things. And, some religions, I don't care what religion it is. And Christianity is some versions of Christianity, and Muslim, some versions of Muslim think that women are second to men. That's not how we were originally created. So they were supposed to be partners and, an equal plane. But see, in the particular, for some strange reason, my husband thought that he was my ruler. And he was using religious thinking, reframing it to make it mean what he meant, what he wanted, and using that against me. So I came into agreement with those. And so I was taking captive all that negative stuff, which is what caused the illness. Well, that was only part of it. But so what we do is we have to reframe that. We take the negative stuff captive by releasing joy, love, peace, and something of a stronger frequency over the negative thoughts. It took me a while to do that. And this may be done many times per day. I mean, there were times, remember that repentance thing I talked about, where I would own it and I would repent on behalf of myself and my entire ancestral line. Then I would nail it to the cross, then I'd cover it with the blood, then I would trade it. I would sometimes do that 40 times a day with the same thing because I'm reframing. I'm adding more energy every time I do it to get my mind to think that way. So it takes time to retrain our brain to think a different way. So if you find yourself doing the same thing a million times, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. That's part of the process. We take the desired thoughts and begin reframing them into something that's helpful for us. So in my marriage, I had all this negative going on. Then in 2012, and you're going to talk about this more in the next lesson in the bonus session 4, eminent domain, where I lost my house. Now, there was some pretty interesting stuff in there, but I had already had a spiritual awakening. I was already beginning to put into practice a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about. And I looked at the situation differently. And therefore, I had a different outcome. So positive thoughts, we want our body to entrain with. So we take our desired thoughts and we reframe them. We consistently speak these positive thoughts over us. We build blueprints of how we want these thoughts to affect us, which I'm doing right now because I'm in the process of trying to buy another building. And I have decrees, I have things I'm saying over myself, over the situation. I'm meditating on the desired outcome. And the more I want something, the more time I'm putting into it. So I spend a lot of time working on the process of this new building. Now, I didn't necessarily do that in my marriage because everything then was focused on the negative because I was coming into agreement with the lies of my ex-husband. You see the difference? And I'll talk a little bit more about that in session 4. So simple mindset shift ideas. Go into a time of meditation. And, however you think about the word meditation, really it's a time of pondering where you find some quiet space, you clear your mind, and you just go. You can either put on some music and you allow as negative thoughts float down your thought river, get that picture of the thought river, or come up with something else if you don't like the thought river. And then vision covering all of those negative things with love, joy, peace, or some other positive emotion. As you see them coming down, I'm just going to put love over that one. Ooh, that one, I think that one's got a lot of anxiety in it. So I think I'm going to put some peace over that and see peace covering it. Envision what that might look like. Journal about it. Ask Creator to show you every time something negatively triggers within you. Then ask what the emotional root, or if there's an emotional root behind the trigger. And then you take the emotion to your seat of rest and you bathe it in love. That's another way of doing some of this. There's a couple of different ways. So I'm giving you some ideas, and you might be shown a different way than what I've tried. Every time a negative thought flows across your mind, take a moment and cover it with a positive alternative. Again, this takes practice. Focus on staying on your seat of rest. When you get off because of fear, anxiety, or whatever, then you just simply get back on. Don't beat yourself up for missing it. That's the worst thing we can do, because then it just puts us back in, say, every time you do it right, every time I find a penny on the ground, I pick it up and I rejoice because I'm a penny richer today than I was 5 minutes ago. I mean, those are the kinds of things that we have to do when we're shifting our mindsets about something. We learn to love ourselves for our unique gifts and talents. So speak love several times a day over yourself and your giftings and your talents. If you've ever had someone tell you, oh, you'll never amount to anything, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, then go back to all of those things and say, really, am I supposed to be doing that? And if you're finding that you're stuck in whatever it is, probably it's because you're something within you is still hanging on to something that someone said over you earlier. And these are the kinds of things that we practice shifting our mindsets. Your spirit, your soul, and your body, bench of 3. So we govern from the place of perfect love as we're seated on the throne of our life. So I'm saying some of the same things again, but I'm using it to completely pound the idea into your brain to get you to see that as love flows down the mountain into the spirit gates, infusing them with love, then it flows into the soul. The soul sits under the spirit and takes direction from the spirit. When we're not in rest, our highest level of function is the soul. As love flows from the spirit into the soul, it has something positive to align with, the soul does. And it changes how the body reacts. Then love flows into the body from the soul where it can naturally heal, completing the perfect bench of 3. So this is you want to find something that will connect the spirit, soul, and body as a bench of 3. And one of the best ways to do that is to get on your throne and see and infuse every gate with perfect love. And if you did that every day for 90 days, you'd see a huge difference. What's needed for your bench of 3? Find at least one thing to build your spirit. Meditation, your heart garden exercise, and cloaked in love. You're going to hear about that here in a minute. There's, I have 3 or 4 things. I tend to pick 3 in each category. So there's a bench of 3 within each bench. And so it's 9 things create my bench of 3 because there's 3 that focus on the spirit, 3 that focus on the soul, and 3 that focus on the body. That's kind of what I'm doing, but you may do one of each for right now to get you started. Find 1 or 2 things to work on the soul. That's your emotions, your mind, your imagination, your reason, your choice, your will, your conscience. Those are the soul gates. And gateway cleansing is great for soul work. Pair 2 or 3 physical things that work well together for your body. Exercise, essences, a couple of different healing modalities, whether they be emotional or physical healing, whether it be VST, whether it be the tuning forks, whether it be a Healy or these other things that people are using. There's Rife, there's a Beamer mat. There's all these different things that people are using as part of their physical healing modalities. And depending on where you are, you may need more of those than you do some of the other things. But you look at them and work them together as a bench of 3 because you've got 3 categories you're working on. You want to choose things that are easy to begin with, where success can be achieved. If you make it too hard, it's too easy to get frustrated. So you want to plan your wholeness journey. The best course of action is to make sure you have things in all 3 categories. As I've just said, choose one situation to start with. Is it a physical thing or is it an emotional thing? I would start there. Do you have and you might find that the 2 are connected. Gather materials for the spirit, soul, and body where you can be consistent. Even with the physical and emotional thing, you're still going to want something in the spirit that's building your spirit, because that will flow into the soul and into the body, which deals with the physical and emotional. So that's where, again, you want to find things where you can be consistent. That's where you go and you check the Facebook group for ideas that others have posted. And if you tried something and it works for you, find the link, tell us why it worked, and create a post. Again, you're going to answer questions, or anyone else who's tried that. But again, only put something up if you personally have tried it and liked it. Here's some bench of 3 examples. So physical, if I got a physical issue, the spiritual part is going to be meditation or some form of pondering or having quiet time, where you focus on the desired result and can use this time to help shift mindsets. Then I would put this maybe in the soul. create affirmations and decrees to speak over yourself that relate to specific desired healing. You can use scriptures, positive sayings, the gateway cleansing. And, you're going to have things that you're going to speak out with your physical mouth. And all of this stuff is meant to help shift mindsets within the soul. And I don't have this on here, but it's really important to feel the emotion of what you're decreeing. Don't just speak it out, feel it, sense it. What does it feel like to actually clean it, your gateway? What does it feel like to have love in each of those gates? And then the body would be like the modalities, the Rife, Healy, supplements, medications, exercise, whatever. Then emotional. So I've still got, because I'm dealing with, you want to have something spiritual in each one of them. So meditation would be, I would put that there again. Affirmations and decrees. Same thing. And here I put the cloak of love, because it's that one, the gateway cleansing, that definitely, yes, it works with the soul, but it also goes down into the physical. So if you're mostly working on emotional things and you're physically okay, then you're going to spend more of your time finding things like the cloak of love exercise, which I'll talk about in a second. So gateway cleansing could also work on your body as well, and where you're using things like flower essences, because flower essences and music essences and even essential oils, they actually can help with the physical as well as the emotional. These are tangible things you can put your hands on. So when we think of the body, we're thinking of tangible things that we can see physically and touch. Okay. All right. It takes about 90 days to build new habits, a minimum. Some people say 60, but I beg to differ with them on that. Okay, I'm going to have to move me up here. It's your bench of 3 homework. You're going to choose a physical or emotional situation first, and you're going to keep it simple. For now, pick one thing in spirit, one thing in soul, one thing in body. So decide how you're going to focus your quiet time. That will be the spiritual thing. Or, something spiritually that you're going to do to build your spirit. It may be something that I haven't even suggested. It might be something that you're already doing that you could tell the rest of us about. Number 2, you're going to create decrees and affirmations to speak over yourself several times a day. I mean, this is to do with the soul. And, you could say, all right, I'm already doing the gateways. I really want to do the gateways. There are several other things, emotional healing, any of those types of things. Even flower essences would go well in here because they deal with emotions. And then 3 is if the issue is physical, then you're going to find a couple modalities, or at least one, you want to find at least a couple that can be paired. And then if this situation is emotional, this is where you consider, the gateway work or the cloaked in love, which I'll talk about here in a minute. So, some of them can go back and forth between the soul and the body, depending on what your needs are. So nothing is completely set in stone. And as I said before, you have to keep it simple. For this exercise, keep it simple. And you're more than welcome 6 months down the road, or 3 or 4 months, take the challenge again and then up the ante for yourself. Start with something you'll find easy to do that will be success. Practice with patience and perseverance. There's your bench of 3 there. How much do you want to change determines on how much time you spend making the shifts. I mean, I cannot stress that enough. If you struggle with being consistent, you need to find out why you can't, and then really work on that. And that might be stemmed from an emotional root, that's something that someone has said to you, or it could be partially your personality. And, we can shift our personality things by practicing new habits. And the best thing is we need to encourage one another on Facebook. Post your bench of 3 in the Facebook group. And if you need some, keep checking for modalities, ask questions of others in the group. If a healing technique works for you, post a quick testimony. Once you've chosen your bench of 3, you're going to post it. Tell us why you've chosen that particular bench and tell us how you're going to be consistent. We're going to keep each other honest here. Respond to at least 5 posts with some love, give some emojis, make some comments, put on some GIFs, whatever GIFs I call them. And here's some practical application. You're going to check your emails for session 4, which should you probably by the time you're seeing this will have received it. I tell my story and how I got to where I am today, and I share my bench of 3s. And then you're going to also post your homework in the challenge Facebook group for session 4. And again, you're going to give emojis and comments on at least 5 posts. And you'll have permanent access to the Facebook group where you can continue to encourage others. Now, even when we do additional challenges, you can be in the Facebook group and you can still comment. You just may not register for that challenge at that time, but you can still comment and be in the Facebook group, if that makes sense. This is a continual process. We're on the same journey of wholeness, so share your victories. Okay, here is the special offer I was talking about. I'm going to move this down over here. Mountains, Gates, and Castles. The special offer is you get 3 teachings that are relevant to this challenge, and I've talked about at least 2 of them. The first one is Cloaked in Love. It's what I did for Song of the Month for a whole year. It's $160. It's got MP3s, an activation, and music. And I do the activation to music, and then you have the music alone. And you wrap yourself in a cloak of love, and you put an adornment on it each month. So it's activating the imagination, and it's helping you wrap in love. Then the VIA, character and passions. If you're trying to find your identity and deciding what it is that you want to figure out, what am I called to do? What am I good at? What are my passions? This is a great class for you. And then the last one is the Mountains, Gates, and Castles for $55. Now that's the normal prices. All of these are self-paced courses. You do them as you have time. And honestly, it's going to take you about a year to do all of them. If if you're someone crazy like me, I would be goofy enough to do all 3 of them at the same time. But at that point, I was really desperate because I was tired of being sick. So you're going to get all 3 of them for $115, which is 50% off. It's like 50.5% off because it's 117 is actually 50%. So you'll get all 3 of them for $115. And right there, check out all 3 courses here. If you want to read about them, you're going to go there. You're going to click on that website. And then upon purchase, you'll be sent a link. And the offer ends on August 30th. So how do you get it? You can do a couple of ways. You can use the QR code that's right here. Take your camera, point it. You'll pay through Stripe. Then as soon as you make a payment, you'll get another page. And on that page is a link where you go and you download there's 3 separate folders with each one in my Google Drive, and it'll take you directly to that Google Drive. If you don't want to use the QR code, then you can just click on this link right here. As you see, it's clickable, and it'll take you to where you can make a secure purchase. And again, the moment you pay and it's a successful payment, then another screen will come up and there's going to be a link to where you can download all 3 classes that are in separate folders in my Google Drive. And then this just tells you all the things that are in there. Okay, so we'll see you in lesson 4. And I'm going to stop sharing there and we'll stop sharing the screen. Okay, on that note, Should I sing again? La, ah. It's a different note than last time. All right. So get on Facebook, post your homework, share some love with people. Comment about some of your favorite modalities and ask lots of questions. And if you make sure that today, well, on the 24th, which is after the VIP session on August 24th, their session is at 8 o'clock Pacific time, starting around 9 will be the Q&A session, and you will be sent a Zoom link with the exact time that will start. Like I said, it'll be around 9. It might be a little bit later. And if it is going to be later, I'll let you know that in enough in advance so that you know to plan for that. If you miss the Q&A session, don't worry about it. I'm going to make a recording and I will get you that recording later in the day on the 24th, and continue to take over this next week. And if you haven't finished, go ahead and finish, do the homework, add all the stuff onto the Facebook group, and then I'll continue monitoring and watching what's going on there. Okay, we will see you in the next and the final class.